Good evening and welcome to the NORD School Committee meeting of Wednesday, September 23rd, 2020. Once again, we are coming to you remotely. First order of business is approval of minutes, and we have two sets of minutes to approve, both from September 9th. The first is the minutes from our open session meeting, and the second is from our executive session, also on September 9th. Is there a motion to approve these minutes?
So moved.
Thank you, Maya. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Dave. Any discussion on the minutes? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
5-0. Wonderful. Dr. Thompson, do we have any correspondence this evening? Oh, you're muted, Dave.
I do not. Sorry, I had to find the mute button.
All right, so no correspondence. We move on to the warrant report by Dave Catania.
Okay, I have it right in front of me. Warrants were signed in the amounts of $5,295.62, $19,746.23, $6,732.25, $14,595.54, $1,715, $60,403.09, $336,937.73, $89,242.51, $81,460.14, $13,978, $1,981.74 for a grand total of $632,087.85.
Thank you, Dave. Any questions from the school committee on the warrants that Dave signed? Okay. Moving along to public forum, which is next on our agenda. As a reminder to the community, you can email us at npsschoolcommittee@nord.k12.ma.us if you have anything that you would like us to read during public forum. After tonight, we meet again in 2 weeks, which is October 7th. But at this time, I am going to check that email address. I do see one email that came in for us to read tonight at public forum. This comes from Julie Barber-Issa, who lives in the Oldham School District. Ms. Barber-Issa writes, "Dear School Committee and Dr. Thompson, I am writing for 2 reasons. First, to thank you for the improvements to remote learning and because of my concern for the RLA class size. My kids are in 4th and 2nd grade in the RLA. Between them, they have 4 newly hired teachers, and all of them have been amazing. They are engaging, and the remote learning is such an improvement over the spring. Thank you for all of the hard work that went into the planning and the logistics during to make this a success. My concern is that both my kids have nearly 30 kids per class. In my daughter's class, due to the behavior of 7-year-olds, it is just a lot for the teacher to manage. The teachers are all doing a fantastic job given the circumstances, and so far, it really is going great. My concern is if families move from the hybrid model to the RLA model, increasing the class size to over 30. That would be too large under normal in-person circumstances. With remote learning, it is even worse. I am hoping the administration could have some plans in place in case there is an influx of families wanting to have their kids in the RLA for the next term. Thank you, as always, for your hard work, Julie Barber-Issa." I'm just going to refresh the email count one more time. I do not see any other emails to be read tonight at public forum. So at 7:07, I will deem public forum closed for tonight. Any announcements, Dr. Thompson?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Moving right along to appearances, we do have a few people with us this evening who I'm happy to welcome back. First up is a food services report, and we have Mr. Norris, Ms. Massis, and Ms. Long joining us this evening.
All right, hello, thank you. Thank you for having us. Very excited to be here. So let me pull up the presentation. And I will now take the wheel. Woo. All right, I believe it's showing.
It is. Thank you, Eli.
Perfect. Okay. Again, so thanks again for having us. My name is Elijah Norris, Food Service Director. With me is the one and only Kelsey Massis, who is our resident dietitian. And we cannot forget Mrs. Erin Long. She is our regional manager. So this is our just a quick update of where we ended last year and a little bit of the roadmap of what we have coming up this school year. So just real quick, the 2019-2020 school year, we ended the year at in a surplus, plus 146. Our budget was 171, so we were a little bit short of our original target. The town helped offset that a little bit, helped us bridge the gap. The summer meals program was very successful, certainly more successful than we originally planned before COVID hit. We were able to serve a lot more meals than a normal summer. The things that hurt us were the product costs were higher, packaging costs, the PPE costs, cleaning supplies, all of those sort of things. Everything is costing just a little bit more. And then the labor costs last school year and even a little bit into the summer was not in line with normal meal counts. We had full payroll costs for the majority of the shutdown. But with all that said, we still ended up in a positive place. And this will help us at least start to weather the storm. Did I cut out?
No, you're okay.
Okay, so this will help us at least start to weather the storm with all the uncertainties that this school year is already presenting and will continue to have. So just a quick 6-year history, starting all the way on the far side of the slide is 2015. And 2015 and 2016 were the two self-operated years. 2017 was Chartwell's first year here through this last school year, 2020. So the blue bar is the meal counts. So the higher the blue bar, the better. The red bar in the middle is the food cost. So that's the cost of the products. So on that, the lower the bar is the better. And then the yellow bar is the net profit or loss. So as you can see, the trends have continued to improve even with last year's craziness that happened. So looking at since March until the end of the summer program, which wrapped up on August 21st, total we served about 180,000 meals through the schools. And that was primarily, the elementary schools because they were doing the grab and go lunches at the time. So it's just a tremendous amount of food that we were able to get out into the community. And this is just a quick recap, a few pictures that shows kind of some of the fun that we still tried to have. We had some very talented ladies that drew some pretty cool bags and just, little positive messages for the kids. It's been a crazy time for everyone. I think the kids were certainly affected. So just writing little positive notes on the bags was just another little way that we could stay connected. And this is kind of what the meal service even now kind of looks like with the pre-portioned. Everything is going to be contained in its own vessel to keep everything as safe as possible. But these are some photos from back in April of what the ladies preparing the meals, packaging everything up, and then we send it out to the meal sites. So we realize that it's going to take every adult in the building to keep reinforcing the messages to the children and even other staff members. So we've had a full staff trainings talking about sanitation, and Miss Jill Driscoll was kind enough to come down and really talk to the staff about the coronavirus and what we can do to make everyone's day just a little bit better, keep ourselves safe, keep the kids safe, keep everyone safe. And there's just a few examples of the signage and some floor markers that we've purchased and placed in the schools. Again, just as reminders to the kids, so they don't kind of clump up. They in the classrooms they're all staying spaced out, but we want to make sure when they come down to the cafeteria they're just not too overly excited and then they all cluster up together. So just more signs to reinforce the message. And then at the elementary schools, we are doing assigned seating in the cafeteria, which Kelsey will talk a little bit about, but it's just we're just trying to do everything that we can that's in our power to keep the kids and the staff as safe as possible.
All right, so I'll pick it up from here. So the USDA actually extended a bunch of waivers nationwide that were some of the waivers that helped support this program during basically this whole pandemic. So this was really good news that we received a couple weeks ago, where meals are continuing, both breakfast and lunch. They will be free to all kids under the age of 18. And it also provides some flexibility where we can continue to do some of our remote meals where people can pick up multiple days worth of meals, which is some other good news. With these, parents and guardians are also allowed to come pick up meals for their kids. So, and we'll get into that with the remote feeding model, which I'll talk about a little later. Just one note that this funding, it goes until December 31st is what the USDA has announced, or until funding runs out. So that may happen before December 31st. We just kind of got to play it by ear, one day at a time. So a little breakdown of what our meal service models look like. So for those students that are doing in-person learning, all of our grades, grade K through 12, they are doing a grab and go style, where when they come in the building in the morning, they'll pick up a meal and then they'll go to their classrooms. I know we've had principal buy-in with a lot of the schools to do it this way, but we've also kind of left it up to whatever fits best for the school and the principal. Lunch, grades K through 8, we, as Eli mentioned, we're going to allow them to eat in the cafeteria, where we've set up a system where they are physically distanced and they order meals in advance. So when the kids come down to the classrooms, they go directly to their assigned seat and their meal is there for them, ready for them to eat. So trying to make it, again, as smooth as possible. Grades 9 through 12 at the high school, when they leave for the day, we're doing more of a to-go style. So they just take it with them out the door. We have our ladies there as they exit the building just to hand them off a meal, make it, again, as easy as possible for them to have an option to eat once they get home. So for our remote learning, we are also going to be offering breakfast and lunch for all these kids, where we're going to distribute these meals on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. So for Fridays, we are too going to provide some meals for the weekends as well. So what's nice, again, is this allows only 3 days where you have to pick up meals, where you're going to get multiple meals to hold you over for the other days for your kid. Time is going to be 12:15 to 1 p.m. at the Copley Middle School, which they can pick up in the bus drop-off lane, or at the high school, it's going to be at the rear of the building at door 13. Again, this is an opportunity where parents can come and pick up the meals for their child, so the kid doesn't have to physically be there to get the meals. So good opportunity. So since I mentioned that the USDA, these extensions with the waivers, we're not sure when they're going to end. We are encouraging families to please still submit your free and reduced applications, just to ensure that you have that support if you need that assistance when that time comes, because when these waivers are no longer available, we do have to go back to that traditional model of how we've done school lunch and school breakfast. We're going to have paper copies. They're going to be available at all schools, or you can actually download it, go to our website where you can input it electronically, but we do need a hard copy form. So you can either drop this hard copy form off at your child's school or our food service office. So just talking about, I know every year we really try to do what we can to support some of our wellness and sustainability programs. So still trying to bring in some fun stuff to go along with the school year. So I know we were lucky enough to receive some grants during the time of the shutdowns, as well as for the new school year. So for our new school year, we received yet again another state grant for a fruit and veggie program, just expanding that option for our kids to have access to more fresh fruits and veggies. And we received a couple grants to help with our emergency feeding, which was great to help with the operations piece and really giving us the equipment and what we needed to run the program. grants in the works. So we applied for a nice big grant with the state for a security infrastructure grant. So another one, kind of thinking outside of the box, how we can help really support this program more. Fingers crossed, really hoping for some good work on that. We're thinking food truck maybe might be in the works with that grant to kind of help, again, make that food as accessible as possible for kids around the community. And lastly, our Budding Botanist grant, which just allows us to continue expanding on some of those school gardens and sustainability programs.
And then the last piece that we want to talk about is the staffing. So first off, since the shutdown happened back in March, the staff, the food service staff, did fantastic. Everyone, was working hand in hand. Well, not really hand in hand, but you know what I mean. Everyone was chipping in, filling in where was needed, and making sure that the kids got meals outside in the rain, in the cold weather, in the heat, and soon enough in the snow. So the staff has done a fantastic job of taking this situation that's changed weekly or if not daily, and keeping a smile on their face and continuing to serve meals. Unfortunately, though, with the anticipated meal count reduction, just based on the number of students that are either in the building or the number of students that were participating in the remote meals, we did have to make a few staff reductions. There was 4 full-time staff members who were 20 hours a week at the high school, 4 at the middle school, 1 at the elementary level in the production kitchen, and then there was 5 part-time staff members who worked about 12 and a half hours per week at the elementary schools. So we have some misplaced people. Very fortunate. We've been working with Mr. Mizuko over at Town Hall, and he's done a great job with finding our people alternate work opportunities. Ms. Sheridan as well. So we've at this point, everyone that can and wants to work is working. Everyone that was at 20 hours before is still at 20 hours to maintain the benefits. There was a few people who were, I believe, less than 20 hours that just due to the remote schedule of their son or daughter, it didn't work with the different work opportunities, or they just wanted to take a little bit of time off, spend the time with the kids, and then substitute and fill in for us when needed. So we're pretty excited that everyone was able to land on their feet and we were able to get people into homes. Hopefully, once everything gets back to a little more normal, we can bring everyone right back in and pick up where we left off back in March. But so that's our staffing update and our update in general. At this point, I will stop sharing my screen and ask if there's any questions.
Thank you, Eli. Joan, you have a question?
Yeah, this is fantastic. I'm very excited about everybody getting lunch. I'm very excited about the plans. My only question is around allergies and how, I'm not sure if you folks can answer that, but I know that we have peanut-free zones in some of the places. How is that going to work with making sure that the right kids get the right allergy-free breakfast and lunches? And then that's really my main question.
Sure. Kelsey, you want this one?
Yeah, sure. So this is a project that we currently have been working on. But so our staff, the nurses, do a great job of being in communication with the kitchen staff at each school. So I have been working with the nurses to get a list of those current kids that are doing in-person learning, where we've identified their classroom and as well as their grade level. So that way we know when they're coming down to the cafeteria. So with our ordering system, we even have it set up in the cafeteria where we know what tables are going to seat what classrooms and what students. So our staff are given that information so they know what kids are coming down and what allergies to be aware of. And then from there, if a modified meal is needed, we definitely can still accommodate those food allergies. So there is a process in place.
That's great. Thank you. That's amazing.
Other questions or comments, Dave?
Yeah. That grant that you're applying for, $471,000, what does it entail? Like, I mean, that's one heck of a grant. So, I mean, you must have some restrictions on that, I would expect, right?
It's a
If we get
food
it.
infrastructure grant, and we really we swung for the fences on this one. We've requested a variety of items that will either help deliver food or prepare food a little more safer or make food more accessible. Not necessarily just today and tomorrow while we're in this situation, but for the next 10 years or so. So we've requested a new transport truck, a legitimate like food truck, also power wash vegetable sinks, some additional warming units, additional hand sinks, like mobile hand sinks that could be used, right outside the cafeteria space, additional sanitizer foggers, just a variety of things. And there's some big ticket items, there's some small items, like thermometers to take more temperatures, but it's a lot of things. We had to request specific things, and then they asked for us to get quotes. So we sent the quotes in. There's also a good amount of things for like more tower gardens for each of the schools, some additional stuff for the high school courtyard, raised flower beds or planting beds where produce could be grown, and to create some seating. So it's a lot of stuff we've asked for, and we gave them I think a pretty compelling argument of how we'd put it all together and make it work.
Oh, nice job on that. Thank you.
Other questions from the committee? Anything else that you wanted to share from your team? Aaron, or Eli?
I think the biggest thing I'd want to share is that we're doing the staff is committed. The staff cares. They have children in the system, so it's not just some random place that's just sending food. These are people that live here and work here. There's going to be a few bumps in the road while we're figuring things out. Now that we're open and we're serving 10 or 15 meals a school, now we're ready to ramp up as more kids come in. I think the biggest thing is that right now it's free, so take advantage of it. You're not taking a meal away from another student. The kitchens are, we're staffed. We have product in our fridge and freezers. We're ready to cook, and we hope to see everyone soon.
I think I just wanted to add to what Eli just said. Any word that can be put out to the community to really emphasize the fact that participation is key. Obviously, the more meals we are serving, the more jobs we have. So some of the food service staff, like Eli said, it's not taking away from anyone that really needs it. It's just that it's a federal grant. The money's available, and the more that's used, the better off the school district is because they get the revenue, and the better off the staff and the community is as a whole. So anything you can help us with in terms of spreading that news, that would be really appreciated.
Absolutely.
Thank you for your support.
Well, thank you for everything that all of you have been doing. I mean, on a regular basis, but especially since March. I know it's been a whirlwind for your roles. And I know we talked about it a little bit as a committee before in the spring, but just thank you for the initiative you've taken and the work that you've done in the community beyond the breakfast and lunches. I mean, the family meal program on Wednesdays and the collaboration with the food pantry and with Mr. Mizuko. It's important work, it's inspiring work, and I don't think every community did it in the way that we did. And I'm just proud and thankful for what all of you have done for Norwood. So thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to say something. That Eli and his team do a fabulous job, and it's nice to not have to worry about food service. And then thank you for the girls that are now working in the office. They've been great and have been extremely helpful. And I won't steal them from you.
We want everyone back.
Do you know what the infrastructure grant when you were here, if you got it?
So they had a total of $36 million in funding. They've done 2 rounds of announcements. Each round they did 3 million. So there's still 30 million up in the air.
Oh, wow.
And the first 2 rounds were, I think it was like middle August or maybe beginning of August and middle August. So it's been a few weeks. The deadline was September 14th. So I think sometime within the next few weeks we should hear.
Okay. And then Kelsey, you mentioned that the federal funding through December 31st or funding runs out earlier.
Yes.
I kind of dread to ask this question, but is this a situation where we would find out last minute if the funding is gone, or would there be a couple weeks notice?
We're not too sure. I just say, like, be prepared for a last minute announcement. Cause I mean, it's been changing so much throughout this whole pandemic as these waivers change and when we hear about it. So we of course will be sure to let you guys know immediately when we get the word.
Okay. Well, I think we can definitely, the school committee and administration help with the communication out to the community, but also if there's anything that we can do to help advocate for funding or additional grants, please let us know that as well.
Yes.
Will do. All right, thank you.
All right, have a great night, everybody. Well, not everybody, just service people. Everybody else stay on.
Have a good night.
Bye. So our next appearance this evening is Aubrey Seal from Impact Norwood. Aubrey, are you still there with us?
I'm still here. Yeah, I thought I was off the hook though, and you just said, "All right, see you later, everybody."
I know. I quickly clarified, not everybody. But I did tell you 7:30, and it's like right at 7:30.
You did. It is. Yeah, you were right on the nose. So thank you all for having me this evening. And before I start chatting, I just want to say thank you so much to all of you for all of your hard work. It was really remarkable, everything that you were able to accomplish. So I feel like you don't hear that enough, or maybe you do, and I just don't know. But I just wanted to acknowledge all of the hard work that you all put in, and it's really impressive. And Norwood's lucky to have you all. So,
thank you.
Yeah, now I have you buttered up. Now you can listen. So, no, kidding. I was watching the school committee meeting a couple weeks ago, and I heard about the Norwood Schools Listen initiative, and I heard that you were looking for different data sets, and I thought, well, in 2018, Impact Norwood implemented the Metro West Health Survey, and there is a ton of data in that we haven't even really gotten into yet because it's just so cumbersome. But there were a few points that I remembered that might be helpful in the work that you all are doing with the Norwood Schools Listen project. So you should have all gotten in your packet this lovely copy of a bunch of data points. I didn't make a presentation. I'm going to try and be brief, but I just wanted to point out a few data points that I thought were telling. So on the middle school side, there are 4 points I'm going to just point out. Under school connectedness, there was a question asked whether students felt like they were part of the school. And among Hispanic students, only 48.9 felt connected to the school. They felt part of the school. So I thought that was an interesting data point. The next point I'll touch on, asked students if they thought teachers at the school treated them fairly. And of the students who identified as Black, only 33.9% thought that they were treated fairly by teachers at school. So I thought that was another telling point. Under adult support, it asked if students had an adult at school they could talk to about personal problems. And again, Black students, it was under 50%, only 49.2 felt that they could talk to an adult at school about personal problems. And then the last one I'll touch on under middle school is under peer connectedness. And it asked students if they felt they had a lot in common with the people around them. And there were two populations that stood out to me. Only 39.1% of Asian students felt that they had a lot in common, and 44.2% of Hispanic students. So there were other questions, but they found no statistical significance. So those were the ones that I wanted to touch on for middle school. And then if you look at the high school side, I won't go into as much detail. I won't read out everything. You can certainly see that. But under school connectedness, there were 3 that stood out to me. I feel close to people at this school. I think it was 44.4% of Black students felt close to people at the school. Again, only 43.1% of Black students felt like they were part of the school, and only 36.1% of students who identified as Black indicated that they felt happy to be at the school. And then the last point I'll touch on here is under peer connectedness again. Only 32.9% of Black students felt they had a lot in common with those around them. So that was a lot, and sorry to just be talking numbers with you all, but Impact Norwood's work, we obviously try to reduce the risk factors in the community that put youth at risk for using substances, but we also try to build the protective factors. So if Impact Norwood can be of any help in the Norwood Schools Listen project to help build these protective factors for populations who might not feel as connected, we're here as a resource, and we're happy to do anything we can to help those students who don't feel as connected become more connected. So.
Thank you, Aubrey.
Yeah.
And I know we have talked to the committee before about the Metro West survey, and that happens every year. I know that the Metro West survey is currently in the process of determining how that is going to be administered this fall, because obviously school looks very different.
Mm-hmm.
But we do have, I think, like 200 pages, right? Am I estimating?
It's a lot.
Yeah.
I feel like it's even more than 200 pages. It's like one of those thick binders because it's for all students in grades 6 through 12. So.
Yeah. And other, in Impact Norwood, and also with the Wellness Committee under Mr. Quigley, who, presented to us in May, like different groups have been looking at the Metro West data. And we were supposed to have a fuller presentation on the Metro West data back in May, but it's 2020. So that never happened. But as Aubrey said, when she heard what we were working on, she reached out and she said, I think I have some of this data already from our students for the Norwood Schools Listen. So that's why she chose to come tonight with this specific data set. But there is more data that we do have access to already. Does the committee have questions or commentary around the small data set that Aubrey shared with us this evening?
All right. I like no questions. It doesn't put me on the spot.
Maya unmuted herself though, so I don't know. Maya, did you have a question?
Not specifically a question, but just to say that I do find this data to be really interesting, and some of it unfortunately reinforces some of my qualitative perceptions, I guess, of things, and so I guess it would be nice if it wasn't actually confirming that we have problems, but to the extent that there are some problems, then I think that it's great to have some hard numbers to point to, and then to be able to look. One of the things we were talking about with the Norwood Schools Listens is like, how do we figure out like what our baseline was, and how do we move forward? And so this is great to be able to think about this as some baseline data and a reference point to be able to hopefully measure some improvements.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Aubrey, am I correct that last fall was the first year 6th graders were surveyed, correct?
So it's 2018. I know.
Okay.
So the survey's done every 2 years in the fall, and 2018 was the first time that 6th graders were surveyed.
But we would have this comparable data for 7th to 12th grade if we went back to 2016?
I would have to look. So we weren't part of the Metro West cohort of surveying in 2016. Prior to 2018, the last time they had done a survey in Norwood was 2015, and I believe that was through a statewide youth risk behavior survey. So I have all that data on my computer somewhere. It was before my time, so I inherited some of the stuff, but I can certainly look into that and see if we have anything around this from 2015.
I'm just I'm just thinking about like moving forward. This is obviously a great base, but if we do have access to a data set before that, and then again this fall, and then moving forward.
Yeah. Yep. I can definitely take a look. And unfortunately, there's a huge caveat for collecting data this year. I won't get into that here, but there's some concerns about like the quality of the data that we're going to get this year because it is so unique, and because some students are remote and not in person, that how accurate can school connectedness feel if you're not actually physically at the school and the way the questions are worded. So 2020 might be like an outlier year, unfortunately, but we'll see.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions or feedback for Aubrey at this time around this data, Dave Catania?
Is there any correlation between how people feel and if they play athletics or not, or if they're part of any extracurricular activities?
Ooh, that's a really good question. I didn't ask for that data, but we have, I have all of it. I can try and run some crosstabs and see. I have all the raw data, so I'd be happy to try and answer that question for you.
Yeah, I'm just curious because I think that like to feel more inclusive, joining something would be great for some people.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anything else?
Aubrey, since we have you with us tonight, do you want to
Yeah.
give the school committee a brief update on some Impact Norwood stuff that you worked on over the spring and summer, and anything that we should be on the lookout for coming up?
Sure. So coming up, and our coalition doesn't know this yet, so if any of them are watching, surprise, I'm going to be asking for a small group of folks from our coalition to work with me on developing an action plan that specifically addresses protective factors. So an action plan to build the things that keep youth safe. I think it's important that we do that now. We previously only had one for risk factors. But now more than ever, I think it's really important that we, try to build the morale and promote positive mental health in the community. So that's coming up. What did we do over the spring? It's such a blur. It all.
Your amazing webinars.
Oh yeah, we hosted a number of webinars just to help, parents parent during a really difficult time, to promote positive mental health. And all of the recordings from those webinars are on the Impact Norwood website. We are also starting a podcast, and the first few episodes are really just going to be, again, around building positive mental health and building resiliency and skills to kind of turn off that negative voice in your mind and have a little bit more self-compassion. So we have some great folks lined up for those first 3 podcast episodes, and I have to give a plug to Norwood Community Media because I'm using their space and they're wonderful. So, so I think those are the major highlights for now. Yeah, I wasn't ready to talk about a whole lot of Impact Norwood stuff, so I didn't prepare for that, but
sorry.
That's okay.
But we do have an Impact Norwood meeting tomorrow.
We do. Yeah, we do.
If people wanted to join Impact Norwood, how would you recommend they do that?
They can shoot me an email, aacl@norwoodma.gov. You can visit our website, impactnorwood.org. There's a form there, and if they fill that out and they're interested, it gets sent to me and I'll respond. So, yeah, that's it.
Wonderful. Any other feedback or questions for Aubrey at this time? Well, thank you for joining us tonight. Thank you for your continued partnership with our schools. And I know we have a lot of work ahead over the next year. So
it's all going to be good. It's going to be good work. All right. Well, I hope you all have a great night. Take care. Thank you.
Thank you, Aubrey. You too.
Bye.
All right. So moving right along, Dr. Thompson, your superintendent's report.
Yes, we're going to do another update if I can find it. Yeah, why isn't that? It's not letting me show this tab. Hang on a second. There we go. Just had to move it closer. There we go. I have too many tabs open. All right, so let me know when you can see it. All right, we got the thumbs up. All right, so update number 7, September 23rd, 2020. Here we go. Hang on to your seat. So, quick update on this one. We're going to talk about our great start, our continuing challenges. We'll go into our ongoing professional development work. I'll throw it over to Dr. Wyeth to talk about that. Update everyone on our staggered start and what Monday the 28th means. Revisit self-screening. There was announcements that went back, but I want to go through it with everyone here as well. Talk quickly about enrollment. Talk a little bit about our exploring into the calendar and days off coming up, as well as, of course, next steps moving forward. So, so we've gotten off to a great start. I want to say thanks to a lot of people. First of all, our teachers for their continued efforts for improvement, for the instruction. Our administrative leadership and organization. It was a summer like no other for a lot of people. I want to thank the parents for their patience as we've gone through this process. And I want everyone to know that we're going to continue to adapt and grow as we move forward. I also want to give a special shout out to our summer curriculum team, our summer leadership team, our task force that looked at different aspects and gave us feedback. Parents, of course, for responding to all the multitude of surveys to give us some information to help make critical decisions in very little time to open. But we're not perfect at this point, but when we look around and when we look internally, we're in a pretty good spot starting off, and we are definitely a lot better off than other districts around us and across the state. So I want to thank everyone for their efforts. It was a true, it was a wonderful moment this week going into school, seeing kids in classrooms, the excitement of our teachers to see their kids, even the kids that were online with their teachers this week. The excitement and the energy there was palatable and just incredible to see. So I just definitely made all this hard work worthwhile. So challenges, we have challenges. We're going to continue to have challenges. You've heard me use the expression, round peg, square holes. This is not how school systems were built. Just mention a couple. Onboarding our new staff. Some of the staff was hired, 5 or 10 days before school started. Some of them missed some of the PD early on. We need to catch them up. We need to get our new teachers up to speed with all the tools that some of our teachers started using this past spring. We've had a tremendous amount of support in doing that. Our teaching staff are coming together, supporting each other. The PLCs, the Wednesdays, afternoons are going to be huge in this. We're also working on after-school opportunities for our new staff to learn some of these things as well. So onboarding and getting everybody ramped up to full speed is going to be an important aspect. New enrollments, changing numbers. This is continuous. We've only been in school for 5 days, and normally in that first week, 2 weeks, that's kind of when people start to realize that they need to either register their kids or withdraw their kids. So the numbers are moving around right now. The difference and the challenge right now is instead of them moving around in 5 or 6 spaces, they're now really moving around in 9 or 10 different spaces. And we don't have any history in our remote learning environment and our sub-separate populations being full-time and some kids not going full-time. So there's a lot of moving parts, and the numbers changing are new and different. So we are in the process of fine-tuning everything from how things operate. Part of our reasons for starting with our transition students was to try out our entries and leavings and moving through the schools. We've been fine-tuning those. We've been fine-tuning our schedules, and we are adding in the specials coming up this week in some programs. Our student information system, that's what SIS stands for. And let me just kind of explain what that is to those at home. So we have a database, and the database holds all of our student information, everything from where they live, their medical information, to their grades and their schedules. We also, on top of that, we also have all of our staff information, who teaches what, where they teach, how long they've been teaching. It's called EPIMS. So all this information is in a database, and they all different pieces talk to each other. And then that database speaks to the state, giving the state information for our state grants, federal grants, our funding formula. October 1 is coming around the corner next Thursday, as a matter of fact, and that is our enrollment piece for funding the following fiscal year. So with that being said, our student information system was set up, and we have, if not the best, one of the best student information systems that you could buy, if you will, or buy into. But the problem was that it was designed to do school this way. Well, now we're doing school this way. And some things are not fitting very well. So there's some work that needs to go through and needing to find some workarounds with that. We're very lucky in that we have Stephanie Boudoin, who is our data-based manager, and she is absolutely the best, and the support of Joe Kidd on this. But it is something we're going to have to constantly try to figure out again. Round pegs, square holes. We still need about 2 to 4 teachers. We're in the process of hiring those. 2 teachers are special ed teachers in the Remote Learning Academy, a reading teacher, or maybe even 2 reading teachers. So Dr. Wyeth, do you want to talk quickly about professional development and the plans that you've been working on?
Yeah, sure. Good evening, everyone.
Your microphone, Dr. Wyeth, is off.
Yeah, I think you hit the mute.
I thought I did, but I didn't. Excuse
All right.
me. Hello, everyone. So as I mentioned at the last meeting, our 11 days before school started was really action-packed with a lot of professional development. That went from August 31st to September 17th. I can't thank our summer school curriculum workshop leaders and teachers that really helped fashion the curriculum for the Remote Learning Academy and for the hybrid model as well. They shared a lot of that information out with their colleagues who did not participate. And so that was really, I think, a key element to getting everybody kind of ready for the opening of school. Part of that 11-day training was, as you know, sort of a couple of special events that we hopefully will set us up for the work that will follow throughout the year. One was, a talk by Dana Mortensen, and I think that was very well received by staff. It's part of she leads the World Savvy program and project, which is a worldwide project that really helps kids sort of engage in solving major problems locally and globally. And out of that work, I had the chance to review some of the curriculum work that people did as part of that project. And it's tremendous. I mean, there's really engaging topics that any kid can sort of grab a hold of and really do some remarkable work with. So I can't wait to see some of that put into action and play as the year goes on. And we hope to follow that up with similar kinds of opportunities to grow those really project-based types of activities for kids. The other piece that we provided staff with as a whole was strategies for creating trauma-sensitive classrooms. That was led by the Middlesex Partnership for Youth staff, and they're great partners, and we are looking forward to sort of, again, following that up over the course of the year with some work later on November 3rd. We've got Dina Simmons coming. She's a Yale professor, and she's going to talk on culturally responsive teaching. And that will be followed up with some work with Ariel Nelson. And at the elementary level and at the secondary level, ADL is going to be working with our middle school and high school folks, again, on sort of developing this awareness of racial issues and how we can better meet the needs of some of our students of color. And I think Audrey's report really kind of points us in that direction. It gives us data to say, yeah, we need to do some more work in this area. And so the high school data and the middle school data that Audrey just shared a moment ago is really, I think, a great platform for us to work from. And I thank her for that work, and hopefully we'll continue to gather more data around those important topics. That work will be followed up with some work with Katie Novak around universal design for learning. And again, as I think I mentioned broadly last time, all of this will connect to sort of how do we provide kids with more choice, more voice? How do we differentiate our instruction? How do we scaffold our instruction to better meet the needs of our kids? And our student population is becoming more and more diverse as we speak. You can see that in the rising numbers of our EL students and students of color. It's a great thing. And so we need to be prepared for it. So to back up a little bit, also part of our onboarding was, and part of that 11-day training was bringing on our elementary remote learning academy newcomers. We have 10 new teachers that are participating in that program. They are dynamic, they're young, they're excited, they're really enthusiastic about making this work for kids. And I can't say enough about the energy they've been putting into it. And in particular, I can't say enough about the time and effort that our elementary curriculum coordinators, Jill Milton, Stephanie West, Joe Kidd, and his team have put into facilitating this new learning for our young teachers. They've got a lot to learn still, and we're going to work on that. I think, as Dave mentioned, on our Wednesdays that are coming up in the afternoon, we'll have time for our hybrid teachers, which are basically our experienced teachers working. And I should say, in the RLA model, we've got a lot of experienced teachers too, and we're pairing them up with some of our younger teachers to provide support for them. So, on these Wednesdays, we'll have an opportunity for our remote learning academy staff to work with our hybrid staff, and again, further, just enriching their understanding of the curriculum and preparing them for going forward. So it's a huge effort. I think hopefully if you look at the big picture, you'll see there are many pieces to this pie, and there are a lot of training components involved in it. Jill and Stephanie and Joe and a lot of other staff too have stepped forward to help train their colleagues. I can, well, probably the list is too long to rattle off, but I can certainly share that if you're interested. A lot of just our experienced teachers are giving back to their colleagues, and can't thank them enough for that, and people appreciate it. So I think I've covered that, Dave. If there's anything I missed, let me know. Our professional learning communities will be evolving on these Wednesdays. And one of the silver linings of this dark cloud that we have around us called COVID is that we are seeing much more collaboration. It's really kind of amazing to me to watch teachers in these meetings, in the Google Meets, work together, solve problems, and it's been magnificent. That part has been magnificent. That's it.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Wyeth.
Yeah.
Any questions for Dr. Wyeth before I? No. Okay. All right. So all right. So then I just want to give everybody kind of an update on our staggered start. We are still on schedule, which I'm actually really pleased with. It was a pretty aggressive start that we tried to take on, and so far we have more than beat it. Tomorrow we're excited to welcome our kindergarten gold cohort back. So they will be the gold cohort will be in person Thursday, Friday of this week, starting tomorrow, and then the blue cohort will start on Monday and Tuesday. Also on Monday the 28th, that's when everybody else starts their in-person learning in the Norwood Public Schools, and we are very excited for that day to seeing all of those faces come in. Please pay attention to our new protocols, our new traffic patterns, and all those sort of things, but that is going to be a day we have all been long waiting for. One thing, and I did send it out this past Wednesday, but I will probably send it out again this weekend as well. But there is a self-screening tool that is in the reopening plan at the end of the safety protocols piece. There's a student or a family and a staff, but the student screening tool asks the following questions. My child is feeling well today. I have not administered a fever-reducing medication, ibuprofen, Advil, Motrin, Aleve, acetaminophen, Tylenol to my child in the last 4 to 6 hours. My child does not have any signs or symptoms of illness, including but not limited to a fever of over 100 degrees, chills, cough, shortness of breath, sore throat, headache, fatigue, with a combination of other symptoms, body or muscle aches, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, loss of taste of smell, unexplained rash, nasal congestion or runny nose, not due to other known things such as allergies. It continues, in the past 14 days, my child has not been exposed to anyone with any of the following symptoms: fever, cough, shortness of breath, cold, sore throat, headache, fatigue, body or muscle aches, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, loss of taste or smell. And then we also want to make sure that the school has up-to-date emergency contact information in the event that I need to be contacted when my child is at school. So we're asking that this tool be used daily, just as a reminder of what we're doing. One things we want to make sure of is we do not have people with symptoms coming to school, causing other people to possibly get exposed and having to do things. If we all do our part, we'll be able to prolong our in-person learning and be able to do that as often as possible. So I'd like to remind people of that. All right, so we're going to switch over really quickly to talk a little bit about enrollment. Just find it here. Here we go. So we're going to go to a different tab and share that. Can everyone see the nifty PDF report we have there? Okay, I'm not looking at you, so someone has to say yes. Can you see that?
Sorry, I was muted. We can see it.
Okay, good. All right. So let me go back to it. All right. So so again, we're kind of in a, I jokingly call it the new Abby normal. So we have struggled with how to report these numbers, and this is kind of just a first blush at this point. Once upon a time, it was pretty easy. You had a school, you had teachers in the school, you had students in the classroom. It's not quite so easy because now the regular schools have been split into two cohorts. They are either A, the blue cohort, or B, the gold cohort. Then we have our full-time students. Those are mostly our significant special needs students. And then we have a cohort R, which is our full remote or our remote learning academy students. And in order to kind of keep with our previous state reporting, we are trying to keep the kids who are remote still aligned with their home elementary school. And again, the student information system is not really set up to do all of this sort of accounting. The other challenge is that cohort F has got 2 different teachers depending on which part of the week that they're in. So I'll just kind of go through what these numbers represent. So if you look at the top, we've got Balch there. We've got our blue cohort on the top. In first grade, there's 13 in person. In second grade, there's 16 in person. In third grade, there's 18 in person. In fourth grade, there's 20 in person, and that's a larger room, by the way. In fifth grade, there is 17 in person. You can see on the other cohort, you have the other half of the first grade, and then there's multiple classrooms in a lot of these cases. So you've got 14 in first grade, 14 in second grade. In third grade, you've got 19. In fourth grade, you've got 24. And in fifth grade, you've got 14. You can see the numbers that are in our substantially separate programs or are dual identified as maybe English language learners and special ed. And then you can see the remote numbers. Those are the numbers that are going into the remote learning academy. So if you go through the interesting number, last year, Balch had 309 students. And again, we've only had 5 days. There are probably more students who will be enrolling in the next few days. That's a drop of 10 students overall who were officially once upon a time Balch students. Below that, we had the Callahan numbers. And again, for the people out there, the Callahan has several classrooms in the older part of the building that are much smaller. reducing their capacity for in-person and social distancing. You can see that they are down 10 students there. The Cleveland is only down 7 students. The Oldham is down 15 students. The Prescott is actually down 0 students right now. Then we go down, we have the Willett. The Willett is only down 2 students from last year's number. The preschool is down 54 students, and I just want to remind the committee that that is because because of spacing issues, we are not able to take a full complement of role model students. That's the reason for that. At the middle school, we are down 6 students. And at the high school, we are down 7 students overall from last year. So those are not huge numbers of drops. And again, it still is early. When you look at the total enrollment altogether, we're down 111 students overall. And you can see by grade where they kind of line up in there. You see this number blank? Those are students that have not been assigned to a cohort yet. And again, I would just want to remind everybody that we're only 5 days in and there's a lot of people coming and going. So not all of that is done. Homeschooling, you can see the numbers at each grade level of homeschooling students. The total is 45. That is up from 28. So right now that is a difference of 17. There are probably 4 or 6 more that are in the process that have not done that. I definitely understand people's preference for homeschooling, but I do want to remind people out there that if you are not enrolled, which homeschooling is not, if you are not enrolled in the Norwood Public Schools, by October 1, we do not get to count you in our census, and we do not get state funding for you next year. So even if you come back next year, we will not have the money that would come with you. It would be a year away. So that's kind of the enrollment report. And, I kind of look at this as a first blush, 30,000 feet. It looks nothing like previous reports, and I'm fully aware of that. But in order to do that, we would honestly have it used to be the data would come out, we would be able to put it into the graphs easily. It was just transferring numbers and updating numbers in a spreadsheet. We would have to get down, look at each set of numbers where the crossovers were, because some of these will report to more than one teacher. So it's a little more involved than it was in the past. So I don't know if we want to ask questions on that now or keep moving forward. What is the pleasure of the committee?
It's not so much a question, Dr. Thompson, just an observation. And I just did quick math, so I think I'm correct. If anybody thinks I'm wrong, please tell me. But just looking at the percentage of each elementary school, how many students chose the RLA in comparison to the total enrollment for each school, the Prescott is very different than the other schools. 44.6% of their student population, grades 1 through 5 at the Prescott, who have enrolled in the RLA. And then next is the Balch at 29.7% of their enrollment is the RLA, followed by the Oldham at 26.9%, then the Cleveland at 25.5%, and then the Callahan at 24.3%. So again, no question, just an observation.
Yep. It is. We were, and I think I've shared it with the committee before. I was kind of, there definitely are health reasons why people would need to have a remote, which is why the state is requiring us to have a remote only option. But I was a little taken aback by the number in some places, especially when we really were offering a hybrid in-person program that was partial. But we'll see how that pans out. And again, as I've shared with the committee, once upon a time, you could sit and say, oh, well, that number is going to do this and this number is going to do that. And every year this does this and this does that. And we're not even in the same neighborhood to have that conversation right now. This is all brand new. We have no history in any of this. We're discovering as we go by. So let me jump back to the PowerPoint, and hopefully you can see the nice blue screen. All right, and then the next thing I want to bring up is we have started looking. There was a question early on about the Monday holidays and how we were going to look at that. And we did, thanks to Dr. Wyeth and Dr. Galligan, they did do a first blush at the calendar, and we looked first at our full no school days, if you will, so those days that are either holidays or full day PD days. And looking at that, there are 3 Monday holidays: Columbus Day, Martin Luther King Day, and Memorial Day. There are 2 full day PD days: Tuesday, November 3rd, and Monday, January 4th. Tuesday, November 3rd is the election. We can't change that. And we do have people coming on the 4th. But then if we look at the other side, for the other half of the cohort, the gold cohort, Friday, there's 1 Friday holiday, Good Friday, where the school is closed for a full day. And interesting, this year, in both Thanksgiving and before the December holidays, we stopped school or do not have school on the Thursday, Friday, the week before, if you will. So when you count that out, there are 5 full days on Mondays or Tuesdays, and there are 5 full days on Thursdays or Fridays. So those kind of equal out. So we're leaning right now towards not changing any of our calendar and our cohort days, just going through it for the year because it will eventually equal out. For our half days, there are 7. And these are things that we need to look at. 3 are on Wednesdays, there are 2 are on Thursdays, 1 on a Tuesday, and 1 on a Friday. The thing we need to investigate, and obviously, it would be great if we could have just all of those on Wednesday. We need to kind of look at and go back and look at what's actually planned and seeing if we're having people coming in, whether they could change their date to a Wednesday. And just thinking about families, and how families have had to plan for the Wednesday. And if we start having school not having school on a Tuesday and having school on a Wednesday, and they need somebody to come in on a Tuesday, how much havoc that would possibly wreak on their plans for that Wednesday, pretty much full remote day. So we're looking at that piece next. But the full holidays and the PD days look to be equal right now. So we're going to go back and we're going to look at the half days and see what we can do there. Make sure they're equal. Maybe try to get most of those to a Wednesday, so we don't have to do a whole lot of shifting during those weeks. And by shifting, what I mean is, for that Thursday where you have a half day PD day, you'd shift that to Wednesday perhaps and keep the full day on Thursday, something along that line. But we need to go back and look at those days, see what's planned, see what we have contracted. Sometimes we have people coming in. Sometimes they can change. Sometimes they can't. So we're going to be looking at that in the next few weeks. All right. So next steps, we're going to continue our support, especially in the new technology tools. As we use them, there are more challenges and things that we need to roll out with training. I have to say, the work that has been done with our Fuse Fellows for the last 2 years is really paying off at this point in time. That personalized learning and that integrating technology, giving teachers the ability and the time to have that collaboration time is really, really helping out. We got to complete the hiring. We've got about 4 people still to hire. Fine tuning schedules, making sure they all fit. That is the process. And again, once upon a time, you had a special ed teacher who was in a school that serviced that school. Sometimes you've got some kids in the remote learning academy. Sometimes they're in person. Sometimes they're remote. That scheduling just became much more challenging in 3 different ways. And we already did the calendar. I don't know why it's there another time. But all right. So once again, in closing, the situation is fluid. And I constantly say every time we make a decision, we go 2 steps, we find a new challenge. It definitely is difficult work, and that is kind of what we do. There are no super great, fantastic decisions. We don't always have the ability to fully vet every single decision. And even if we did make a decision, because there aren't too great, there isn't like a great choice and a definitely bad choice. But when you make a choice, sometimes there's other challenges coming out. the work continues. We're looking for consistent, constant improvement, and we do appreciate and would ask that everyone be patient through that. Tomorrow will be, we'll have the first full week of students doing in school, doing remote learning, and it will only be the third day of general in-person instruction. So we are still ramping up. There are still things to learn, and we do ask for your patience. And this is news for everyone. The Commissioner of Education did confirm last Friday that we would be able to switch to remote on snow days, meaning that snow days would not have to be made up. So while that's good, when it gets to June, having a complete day with nothing is probably not going to be the case. So instead of saying there'll be no school today because of snow, it'll be, we will not be doing in person because of snow. Everyone will be remote. So I just want to get people a heads up on that. So with that, I will stop sharing and see if the committee has any questions.
Thank you, Dr. Thompson. Questions, comments at this time? Dave Catania?
I apologize for all the kids. No more snow days. It feels like we're ending something that was historically a happy day.
Well, hopefully it'll only be 1 year. Hopefully it'll only be 1 year, but look at it this way. You can start your tanning routine at least 3 or 5 days early.
Other questions from the school committee on the school update from Dr. Thompson? Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Dr. Thompson, did you have any other updates or anything under late report for us tonight?
I do not think so, no.
Okay.
That is it.
Thank you. So moving along to budget, we do have a number of items to share. So the first is just the update from the Finance Commission meeting. Maya, Karen, Dr. Thompson, and I were at the FinCom meeting on Monday. Overall, I think it went very well. I think we have a very strong partnership and collaboration with the Finance Commission at this time, which is very much appreciated. And I hope the community realizes how closely the two committees are working together. And not just the committees, but also Ms. Sheridan and Mr. McQuaid and Dr. Thompson and Mr. Rizzuko. It is a very strong partnership at this time. But Dr. Thompson, Ms. Sheridan, would you like to share a little bit more about what you shared with FinCom and what you would like the school committee to know at this time?
Karen, you want to go first?
Well, for me, we did update them a little bit about the grants that were approved. All the title grants, 1, 2, 3, and 4 have been approved, and they're in the system and ready to start spending them. The CRVF grant, it should be approved. I spoke to the Department Ed. That should be approved by next week, but you are allowed to start spending on that before approval. So that is already set up in the system, and we've started spending that one. There's 2 SPED grants, the IDEA grant and the Early Childhood Education grant that have been submitted, and we're hoping that they will be approved in the next week or so. So we're doing very well with all the grants. Dave spoke to them about seems to be an improvement in the increased amount of money that we've gotten with the grants. And not only the ones that we've gotten due to the virus, but also, Dave, you want to speak about the how much people have been going after the grants, and we even saw that in the food service.
Yeah, so we, basically a little over 2 years ago, we started really sifting through and finding grants that were going to help us move forward. The Career Pathways grant, for instance, various food service grants to bring programs in, CFCE a couple of years ago, but improving that and improving the program around that. But this year, so all of that work, I think, last year we brought in an extra $80,000 or $90,000 in grants in. Some of those grants we were able to use to cover different things, save some budget money towards the end of this past year. But this year there have been more. It seems like every 2 weeks there's been a new grant out there. We have applied for all of them. We have gotten every single one of them. there has been a concerted effort since last May to prepare ourselves or be in a position because we knew that the beginning of this year was going to be more expensive. So finding savings in last year's budget, pre-buying some things for this year, saving grant money because we were given the option of carrying grants over from last year to this year, Title I, Title II, Title III, Title IV, putting us in a better financial position so that we could fund some of these requests that we came to FinCom with. So, without talking about healthcare and such, we're about, I think the initial low ball about 230,000, but I think it might end up being more than that when we get a little bit closer. It's hard to give a really hard number as you're in the middle of the storm, but we're not that far off from what we anticipated this cost was going to be, and that is a tribute to Mrs. Sheridan's thoughtfulness and management, a little bit about planning for what we thought was going to come down. Alec, you want to add something to that?
Yes, I want to take the opportunity to say thank the school committee for supporting the person, Patty Vortex is her name, Patricia Vortex. She has been tremendous, and she's helping find and secure some additional grants for us. She's kind. She works great with the business office and with Karen to identify possible grants to pursue. And she's a go-getter. So she's also brought a lot of order to some chaos in the grants office. There was, just a lot of organizational skills that she brought to bear has made a big difference. And so I want to thank her publicly, Patty Bortek. Thank you.
Yeah, Patty's great.
Yeah, and I also want to thank the town. I mean, the town really helped us get into this position, sharing some of those COVID costs between our account, their account. They took on some costs so we could do some other things to be prepared. This district is not only financially decent situation with the challenges we have with staffing going forward, but we are also able to purchase technology in a timely way so that we are not one of the districts that are waiting until the end of October for technology to do what we are doing. So that, is a credit, and I have to thank both Mr. and Ms. McQuaid for their will to work with us to get that done, because we were all focused on what it would take to have Norwood Public Schools open and operating in September. So,
David, I'm sorry, but I'd be remiss if I didn't thank Rhonda in the business office as well. She's been tremendous helping with Patty and Karen sort of make that transition in the grants, in the world of grants. She's been a trooper all these years and has done a great job with grants management. So thank you to Rhonda as well.
Great. I'd like to mention also that the relationship with Molly Ahern has been wonderful with myself and Molly, and we work quite well together. And there is going to be some training. I think it starts Friday on the MUNA system, and there's a couple of other days that are set up. The email went out, so anybody who wants a refresher course or somebody who is new and needs to learn it, that's going out, and there's going to be future trainings as well.
Yeah. So just to so people realize, so Molly is the HR director in Town Hall. We were able to tap
Molly Ahern. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
So we were able to tap into her expertise. I mean, because we're dealing with a whole bunch of different leave language that came out with the Coronavirus Relief Act and how to navigate that. So she was an incredible resource with that. Letters, notification forms, all those sorts of things that the town had been working on and shared those with us to help us through. So.
So in the packet for the school committee, I'm sure you saw, is the note that Karen submitted for the Finance Commission meeting, as well as her spreadsheet with everything that she was talking about with the grants. Was there any specific questions from the school committee on anything in the packet? No. Maya, did you want to add any information?
Well, I would just like to say that I was really pleased that that FinCom was so supportive of doing what we need to do for the students of Norwood. I think that certainly there were questions asked about what the benefit costs will be and things like that, and we were able to provide some numbers for that, and Mr. McQuaid had some estimates for that, but the more than one finance commission member specifically said that they support these expenses, and I really think that I appreciate their support, and I think that it shows that we as a committee working with the finance committee have shown, we've tried to be transparent, and I think, and they've taken the time to really dive in and see what is driving our budget and understanding the issues, and they want to do what's right for the children of Norwood. So I really appreciate that.
Thank you, Maya. Anything? If we have anything else. All right. So moving on to the next item on the agenda, Ms. Sheridan does have a proposal to share with us this evening about restructuring the finance department. Do you want to guide us through that, Ms. Sheridan?
So I'd like to start with what the staff looked like when I first got to Norwood. So you had, I had 2 assistant bookkeepers that did the payables. We had the one payroll employee who handles all the payroll. We have the one employee who handles the HR. And then at that time, I did have a secretarial position. That position is open right now, is the position that I would like to fill with another bookkeeper, because I think that's an area I need. It's more important to me than having another secretary position. With the goal that I had when I first started was to add cross-training to the department, to improve the internal controls, to try to improve the skill set of the current employees, and not only that, try to get some more experienced employees to begin to come in that had some accounting and finance knowledge. With the current administrative assistant union, the way that's set up right now, it's difficult for me to move forward with what I'd like to do with the department. So I have some ideas on how I want to move forward with that. A couple of things that I have done, that with the grants, there was mostly people that had stipends to handle the grants and different areas. So the grant was not in one place. So as Alex said, that they brought in Patty, who is wonderful, who is the grant writer. We also have Beverly, who at the time was, her position was the grant secretary, but it was clear that she had the abilities to do more than just the grant secretary. And also her organizational skills are marvelous. So she is one that we've been training to learn more about requesting the funds for the grants, doing the final reports for the grants. She's handling all of the grant expenditures, and they're all in one place. So she works a lot with Alec. And so that's been a great improvement. Rhonda, who did do some of the grants before, has been mentoring with her, training her on how to do more grant management. And also Rhonda is being trained in payroll, because we needed a backup in payroll. Cheryl is the girl that handles payroll in my department. And when she's out, there was nobody to take over in payroll. We had to pull somebody from the town to handle any payroll for vacation or if she was sick or whatever. So there's a lot of cross training going on. And I felt like not only in hiring, but I also feel like if you're improving the skill set of an employee and teaching them how to do more tasks, they're becoming more knowledgeable, then I think that that's something that should be rewarded. So that what I'd like to do is currently we have just the assistant bookkeeper position in the union, and that's at the S2, S1 level. And that's the only bookkeeper position that I have available to me, which it's, again, like I say, it's not only difficult to hire with that, but it's also difficult to be able to really give people more tasks and promote within. So what I'd like to do is add at the second level would be a bookkeeper position at S2 level. So that person would not only have the skill set of accounts payable, but they would also be knowledgeable in grant management, maybe some receivables. And so that would be the step 2 bookkeeper position. The head bookkeeper position would be somebody who's knowledgeable in accounts payable, also has knowledgeable in accounts receivable, has grant management positions, and not only that, is going to be cross-trained in payroll, would be somebody that would oversee some of these, like oversee the grants, would oversee the open purchase orders, the open purchase order report to make sure that some of these purchase orders are closed by the end of the year. So that would be somebody who would have a little bit more oversight in addition to additional tasks that they would be handling. So that would be at the S3 level bookkeeper position. The 2 positions that I want to add to the union would be a budget neutral. I'd like to be promoting 2 girls, one from an S1 to an S2, another one from an S1 to an S3. But I would be, instead of replacing the position that I had open right now, I'd be hiring another bookkeeper, which I'm hoping to get somebody with the money that I have available at probably the mid-range bookkeeper position. I have been looking, and I have a few interviews next week, but it's very difficult to hire at that S1 position to try to get somebody with any experience in. And not only that, your union contract only allows me to hire people at step 1, at step 1 or 2 of the S1 assistant bookkeeper position. So the other thing that I would like to add is to have the ability to go above that step 2 with the superintendent's approval if their experience merits going above that step 2. So those are the changes that I'd like to make to the union contract, if I could. And that would be adding the bookkeeper at S2 level, the head bookkeeper at S3 level, and also have the ability to go above that step 2 if experience merits it and the superintendent approves it. And with that new structure, what I'd like to have would be the 1 assistant bookkeeper position. I have 2 of the middle level bookkeeper positions. I have the 1 head bookkeeper position, and then again I'd have my payroll girl and my HR girl. What I'd like to say in the future hopes would be maybe bring in the future next year or after that an assistant director of finance and operations or possibly a staff accountant. That because I think you need more finance and accounting skills in the office to assist with the reports, with the analysis. And right now, you don't have a lot of experience in that area. You're basically the only one that knows how to analyze any accounts is myself in the reports. I am willing to train some of the girls that I have in my office to help with the certain areas, but I do think in the future, it would be nice to be able to get a little bit more accounting staff in the office, maybe 1 girl. Again, it would be a budget neutral. It would also be the full-time equivalencies would be the same as what I have right now. I think it would give me the ability to not only hire, but to reward somebody who is taking on more tasks and has a higher skill level. So I have had a conversation with Diane, who is the union rep, and she is is somebody who is in agreement with it, and she's all for it. So I did have that discussion with her before I brought this to the committee. Does anybody have any questions on the plan?
Thank you, Karen. And just for the school committee's reference, this whole proposal is in our packet, and page 5 of the packet is where the MOA, the memorandum of agreement, is that Karen is referencing, that we would need to vote on tonight to allow the first step forward of this restructuring with the classification schedule and allowing for that S3 and S2 positions. But did anybody have any questions for Ms. Sheridan? Is there a motion from anybody to approve the MOA that is in our packet with the school administrative assistants?
I move approval of the MOA.
Thank you, Dave. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Maya. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that's 5-0. Great.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Was there anything else that you wanted to share with us tonight regarding that, Ms. Sheridan?
I did want to just mention my staff again, who were working so hard, and also I forgot to mention that I also did bring in. I have Maureen, who works in the food service department, who works 30 hours, and we had brought her in 10 hours a week, and she helps with receivables and with the Amazon, which can be quite a load, the Amazon orders. So working hard, and I can't thank them all enough. So the next thing I have is the budget transfers. If you want to move on to that.
Yeah, that would be great.
Okay. I have one budget transfer request from the Director of Student Services that you have in your packet. She's got several, and the first one would be from the tutor aides, $13,380.56, and moving it to the summer school teachers to cover an excess cost for the summer teachers. She's got another $1,631.99 from the tutor aides, moving into the SPED instructional hardware devices, and that's to cover some hearing impaired hardware. She's got $27,500 from the tutor aides that is going to go to a new account to cover the Assistant Director of Pupil Services position, which has already been approved. Another $57,312 from a salary account that is going into the Assistant Director of Pupil Services account, again, to cover that new position. She's got $3,500 from the tutor aides account that is going to a salary to cover stipends for SPED evals for the LMPA. And then she's got $2,000 from the tutor aides to a new account, SPED instructional supplies, Oldham, to cover some new classroom supplies for a new program at the Oldham. The total budget transfer is $105,324.55. With the new budget policy, I do get the superintendent to approve the smaller budget transfers and report them to you. And then the larger budget transfers, it's over $25,000, need the approval by you to come. So that's the first budget transfer. The second, do you want to approve that one? And then
Motion
go
to
the next?
approve.
Yeah. Thank you, Maya. Was there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Dave. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. 5-0, Karen. Okay, the next budget transfer.
Okay, great, thank you. The next one really is just a report. Okay, so this is the 3 different budget transfers. There's $400 going from the high school foreign language account, and it's going into instructional equipment. The language lab contract was higher this year due to the virtual system, and that request was from Jessica Kaplan. There's $860 from the nursing supply line. It's going into the nursing software, as a nursing software was higher than expected. There's $905.50 going from the district-wide textbooks account. It's going into the contingency fee test account because the Renaissance assessment tool came in higher than anticipated. So those three total 2,165.50. So those would be more of a report than needing to get an approval.
So under our new policy, which you should probably know since I worked on the policy, but can clarify for me, when it's a report like this, does the school committee still have to sign off on it, or under the policy, as long as Dr. Thompson agrees, like, I'm just trying to understand what we have to sign and what we don't have to sign. I know we have to sign the one we just voted on, but what about these three?
I have it up in front of me that 25,000 and over must be submitted to the school committee for approval. And then I'm supposed to report on the smaller ones.
Right.
And so I bring them to Dave for his signature, but report to the school committee for the smaller ones.
So should we, like, just in terms of it then going to the town, the general government?
Yeah, I guess you could do approval. The way I felt it would be that once Dave signs off and approves it, then the individuals are free to go use that money. But I guess it wouldn't hurt to have them approved when we report them out. But the individuals don't have to wait for the approval in order to start using it in a different account.
Right. I understand. Yeah, I understand. I guess I'm just thinking procedurally, if going forward this year, since this is new to us, the new policy, like the one we just approved with the signatures, I'm wondering and thinking out loud here if like the report should have a different template, or if it does need to be the same template with the signatures.
Yeah, it should be a different template.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
so you want me to do that? The ones that you have to approve, the higher ones. Okay.
Right. It should just be a memo with the descriptions and.
Yeah, so we don't need to take a vote on these three because it was just as in accordance to our new policy, the reporting out of the budget transfers that Dr. Thompson approved.
Right.
Okay, I'll do that in the future. We'll have it separated out.
Okay, perfect. But was there any questions from the committee on these three?
No.
Okay.
Teresa?
Yeah.
Just a question. In terms of safety, do we all go in and sign it, or do you guys want to give me authority to just remotely sign it as I do the warrants?
Well, I think we have to probably go in and sign some contracts that we're going to talk about in a moment. So
Sure.
I know Priscilla has organized some signing of it before in a socially distanced, safe, masked, sanitized way. She's been fabulous
good.
about sanitizing. All right, so moving along to old business. We do need to just briefly touch base on extended day fees. Oh, Lori, did you have a comment?
I just wanted to make a quick comment because I don't know if it matters for your vote. The money is actually coming from the summer para, not the tutoring.
That's that's what it's named, even though it is a summer
Sorry,
para.
I just wanted to make
That's
sure.
okay.
Thanks for checking, Lori. So briefly touching base on the extended day fees. I had emailed Dr. Thompson and Chris Capizio about this a week ago because I realized that when we were reviewing the presentation, the proposal from Chris, I had thrown out some numbers that then Dave used as his base for his motion, but I was mistaken in what I was understanding. This is not Ms. Capizio's fault. I misunderstood. So I thought that for the after-school program, the COVID PPE fee was already $5 a day, and it's not for the after-school. It was $250. So the motion and the vote that we took last time on the remote learning program is correct, does not need to be changed. And I believe the intent of the school committee was to approve what was presented by Ms. Capizio. We just worded it a little wrong. So I believe that what we want to say for the after school program, again, the 3 o'clock to 5 o'clock program, is that we were adding on an additional $1.50 to the $250 PPE fee, bringing it to $4, not the $6.25 that I had referenced at the last meeting. Does that make sense, or am I confusing everybody? Am I mistaken?
That's correct.
Wait a minute. We approved $6.25 last week,
For the after school program.
and it should have been $2.50 less.
No, it should have been $4 because so the increase was $1.50 and I had added that on
to $5
to $5.
instead of adding it on to $250.
We approved $650, not $620.
I'm sorry.
That's where, all right, now I get it.
Sorry. so it should be an additional $4. Not an additional $4, an additional $150, bringing the daily PPE fee for an after-school program to $4, not $650.
Okay.
Now I think I clarified correctly.
So, motion to approve.
All right, we are now resuming the school committee meeting of September 23rd. Next item on our agenda is a few new business items. First up is the contract that we have with the junior custodians that Dr. Thompson and Mr. Catania have worked on. Would you like to share a quick update with the committee and the community about this contract, Dr. Thompson?
Sure. We were in negotiations with the custodian union. Starting early in February, we had to take a break during the shutdown. This does represent a cost of living increase of, let's see if I can find it. Oh my gosh. Dave, do you remember? It's the problem with
It's been a while, and I don't know why, but I can't search this PDF. It's a scan. So.
Yeah, it's a COLA of 2% increase.
Yep.
That's, I just found it. So that's and we did fix some language in the contract, but in general it's fair. We are going to have to come back and negotiate a year 2 and a year 3 to this. Hopefully we'll have some financial clarity soon. But all in all, it's a good and fair process.
So this contract fiscally is from July 1st, 2020 until June 30th, 2021. Is that correct?
Correct. The rest of the contract should be done. The only thing we should really need to go back and discuss, there might be one other minor issue, but would be cost of living increase moving forward.
That's on page 12.
Yep.
Thank you. Any discussion from the committee, or is there a motion to approve this contract?
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Maya. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Joan. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, unanimous. Great. Next on our agenda is the memorandum of understanding that we have with our teachers union, Maya and I with Dr. Thompson, and also some of our administrators, Ms. Semino, Dr. Galligan, Dr. Frazick, and Ms. Ferrer have been working with the union over the summer on this MOU. You do have the final version of it in your packet in front of you tonight. Is there anything, Maya or Dr. Thompson, that you wanted to share about the MOU before we vote on it?
You want to go first, Madam Vice Chair?
Well, I'd just like to thank the teachers for their time working with us. We discussed a whole lot of issues on this, and I think they were productive meetings. Many of the topics that we covered included some of the safety issues, how we are going to handle masks and social distancing and things like that, information about the HVAC systems in our buildings. But in particular, I really want to thank the union for working with us, and some teachers in particular helping to figure out how we could do live streaming and make that work for our students and our faculty. And I think really enrich the remote experience for our high school students in particular, and make that the best possible remote learning method that we could have. And so I really want to thank everybody for all their cooperation on that.
I would just piggyback on that. I'd like to thank the Norwood Teachers Association for their work. There were excellent conversations. Someone asked at Facebook Live last time if the teachers at any point in time were positioning themselves not to return. That is not the case. It was about making sure every everybody was going to be safe and we were going to do this well, and we worked together to do that. Excellent conversations, a lot of give and take, and I think we have a great outcome for all involved, our teachers, our students, our administrators, and our community at large. So thank you.
Is there a motion to approve this MOU?
So moved.
Thank you, Dave. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Joan. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, 5-0. Great. So last item under new business is the superintendent goal setting for the next 2 years. Maiv and I met with Dr. Thompson last week to start working as a smaller group on the goals and indicators. So in your packet tonight, you do have a couple of items. One is the draft of the goals and indicators and evidence that we're going to talk through. The other material that we put in there is the rubric from DESE, just as a reminder of what the options are for the indicators that we choose. And I also included the most recent PowerPoint and presentation from the MASC, from DESE and MASS around the goal setting process to remind everybody of what it is that we are tasked to do. Dr. Thompson, do you want to pull this document up so we can
Sure.
see your goals
Yep.
as we're thinking about them?
Good idea. Yep.
Thank you. So as Dr. Thompson is bringing that up, just as a reminder to the committee and to the community, we have 3 goal areas: student learning, professional practice, and district improvement goals. And we are supposed to have at least 1 student learning, well, 1 in each. But with the district improvement goals, it is recommended that you have between 2 and 4. So what we are proposing tonight are 2 different student learning goals, 1 professional practice goal, and 2 district improvement goals that we will go through. And then with those goals, you have to determine the evidence in which we are going to be evaluating Dr. Thompson on in these goal areas. We have identified the strategic initiatives from the district strategic plan that tie into the goals that we're sharing with you this evening. And then last on this document are the proposed indicators. So as a reminder, I think there's about 20, 25 different indicators that you can choose from. And we have 9 different indicators that we pulled out that we are proposing be used as part of Dr. Thompson's evaluation. So what we want to do tonight is obviously come to agreement on the goals, on the indicators, talk about the evidence. And then Maya, Dr. Thompson, and I will go back and do some more work next week on framing these goals, formatting these goals so that they follow the SMART goal process. So after tonight's input, we will make these a little bit more specific and benchmarks and action planning and all of that fun stuff. But we do want to have the committee's feedback and a discussion around the goals. So did everybody have a chance to look at this? How would you like to proceed? Do you want to focus on the goals first? Any feedback on the first set around the student learning goals?
I thought that the student learning goals made a lot of sense given the context that basically 2020 is. So I didn't see any changes necessary for the student learning goals. I have no idea how to actually assess that. So yeah.
Yeah, so that's part of where like the SMART formatting will, come into play. We didn't want to get too deep into that without the committee weighing in that yes, you agree with the overall goal first. So the first student learning goal, as you can see in front of you, in order to improve student learning, the superintendent will facilitate the use of technology tools and blended instructional approaches to further develop the skill set that represents the NPS portrait of a graduate in our students. Is everybody on the committee comfortable with that goal as the overarching goal? Okay. For evidence, we started to list professional development around technology integration, increased investment in technology and distribution plan, the actual portrait of the grad, and the 5C rubrics that I believe the high school and then the district is currently working on and will implement, related policies to technology, the work of the Fuse Fellows, other pieces of evidence that the committee would like to see as it relates to this first student learning goal. No? Okay. We meet again on Tuesday, the three of us. So if something else comes to mind before then, you can definitely email Dr. Thompson and we can build it into our next conversation. But let's move forward with the second student learning goal, just to make sure everybody is in agreement with that one. So in order to improve student learning, the superintendent will establish professional learning time and process to facilitate collaboration and improve instructional practice at each school. The committee agree with that goal? Joan, did you have feedback?
I can't. No, not yet. Sorry.
That's okay. So evidence from here, again, we'll work on the smart word formatting of it. But evidence agendas from the Wednesday collaborations during the 2020-2021 school year, schedule of the technology facilitators, PD plans in support of year one, school improvement plans. We did discuss, the three of us, that this is probably a goal that, because there's so much up in the air with the pandemic, that at the mid-year check-in cycle of the evaluation process, we would have to determine the evidence for year two at a later date. Joan?
Yeah, all right, I got it. So the number two, in order to improve student learning, the superintendent will establish personal terms, collaborate. I think it was the each school that was throwing me off a little bit, and I'm wondering about what of our goals for the remote learning was consistency, right, across the elementary schools. And so I'm wondering if that's appropriate to be wordsmithed or not, if that's something that we want to put in as a goal explicitly there, or if we are comfortable with the school by school approach. I mean, that makes sense for the high school and the middle school, but I'm not sure if that makes sense at the elementary school level, but I recognize as well that there's some challenges and tensions there as well. That's what was, it just took me a second to get it formulated, sorry.
No, that's okay. All right, do you think, oh, go ahead, Dave.
How about if you, instead of school, you put level?
Yeah, that works.
Practice at each level. Does that work?
That works.
Okay.
That's actually a lot better, because it's better that we have consistency across grade levels than.
Right.
Yeah, that's much better. I like that.
So what I'm doing, just so everybody knows, is we're talking just to be most effective with my time, which seems to be running out rapidly these days. I just created a copy of the document, and I'm just editing the copy, and the copy is now labeled the 923 copy of Super Goals and Indicators. That way, if we ever want to go back and compare what we're talking about tonight with the edits that we're making, it'll be on a separate document. So that's why I'm over here typing, just so everybody knows what I'm doing. So any further feedback on the goal or the evidence for the second student learning goal? Okay. So moving along to the proposed professional practice goal, the superintendent will, in collaboration with the administrative team and the school committee, work to build the district's capacity for culturally responsive practice and communication, as well as self-reflect on ways to eliminate areas of racially biased practices and materials in the Norwood Public Schools. Feedback or approval on that language for the professional practice goal? Everybody okay with it? Okay. So again, we'll make that into the SMART formatting. We do have quite the list of evidence that you can see in front of you. So obviously this ties into the Norwood Schools Listen initiative and the surveys and the results and the collaboration with Northeastern that Joan is going to guide us through. A compilation of the PD and programming that is already happening at the high school and middle school, and then add in the elementary level as well once they start to do more of it. Dr. Thompson talked about a self-study that the administrative team is going to take part in. Dr. Thompson, do you want to tell the committee about that a little bit more?
Yeah, it's a program through Massachusetts School Administrators Association, where they're actually looking at discipline practices and school discipline and discipline practices in your own school. So it's very self-reflective, self-study, and facilitated. So looking forward to that.
And you were planning on starting that this fall or not to 2021?
That starts this spring, I believe.
Right. Okay.
There's a note on my desk back in my office with that on it. It didn't carry.
And is that separate from the Mass Partners training?
Yes.
And what is the Mass Partners training?
The Mass Partners training is in an anti-racist classroom.
Okay.
The title of it is running or teaching an anti-racist classroom.
Okay. We also identified, as you heard earlier from Aubrey from Impact Norwood, there is that collaboration with Impact Norwood and Metro West survey. So we thought that could be part of the evidence towards this goal. The school committee back in June adopted those resolutions. So obviously as a committee, we will be looking for evidence that those resolutions are being implemented. Curriculum updates and revisions as it pertains to being more culturally responsive. The school improvement plans that we already approved in the spring are very much in alignment with this goal. So we would be looking for evidence of the school improvement plans being implemented. Other suggestions for evidence? Joan?
Yeah, I have a question. So it struck me that there was nothing on the evidence list that got to kind of family or student, so this work is supposed to benefit, I would imagine, families and students, right? But there's no direct evidence that's being taken from family or students. And so it's hard to see if there's a trickle down effect. And so I was wondering if that was, and so, okay, so people are nodding their heads so that is the intent of that goal is the impact on students. And I'm hesitant to add another survey onto our students or something like that, but I'm wondering if there's a way that we can figure out a direct assessment measure from either parents or students. And I'm wondering if school councils would be an appropriate venue to maybe solicit some feedback around that type of goal. So.
Yeah, I think it was definitely the intention that families and students are part of this. I think when we put the Norwood Schools Listen initiative and survey, because our previous conversations around that was geared on family surveys and student surveys. And further down, when we get into the indicators, there's much more explicit language around family and student engagement, but we can call it out here as well.
No, that's fine. The Norwood Schools Listen does get to the students, but it doesn't necessarily get to it just doesn't get to the family. So I think that's okay.
All right, but I'll put in my notes if you want that when we are developing the SMART aspect of it. That could be like a benchmark or, part of what we're looking for.
Yeah, there just may be some opportunities for collaboration with that group. So.
Okay. Further feedback on this goal or evidence? Okay, so we'll move right along to the two district improvement goals that we are proposing. The first, the superintendent will work with the middle school building committee to complete the feasibility study and initial schematic drawing of the middle school and present the project to town meeting in spring 2022. And here, the evidence you see in front of you actually comes directly from the middle school building committee and the timeline that our OPM has told us we have to adhere to. So I think that this goal actually will be pretty easy to turn it into SMART formatting because we do have a timeline that we have to follow. But is there additional language or evidence around the work that needs to be done with the middle school that the committee would like to see? No? Okay. So the last proposal of the evening, the superintendent will lead the strategic planning committee, develop detailed steps for years 2 and 3 of the strategic plan, and track progress with deadlines. The evidence here we are suggesting be the strategic plan steps on strategy, dashboard, and updates, bi-monthly updates at school committee meetings, which we are going to have starting in November 2020. Feedback from the committee on this goal? Joan said thumbs up. I think we're all winding down. I know I'm winding down, but obviously this is really important work. So if anybody has feedback on any of this, please do share.
No, it's just, that's one's just written really tightly. So
some of these are easier to wordsmith than others. Yeah. Okay, so then again, the above goals really tie into 5 different strategic initiatives on our strategic plan. You can see them in front of you, but they are 2.1, 3.3, 3.5, 5.2, and 5.3. So we're just being very mindful that we're tying in Dr. Thompson's goals with that strategic plan, which, as a reminder, we asked all of the principals to tie their school improvement plans to that strategic plan. Dr. Thompson ties the goals of the administrative team to that, and then that also funnels down to our teachers. So we just want to be very unified in our approach. Everybody good so far?
Yep.
Okay. So now we get into the indicators. Now, again, that rubric has more indicators than what you see in front of you. You are not supposed to evaluate your superintendent on every single indicator in that rubric. That is not what that's not how the system is designed. You're supposed to pull out between 6 and 9 indicators that tie into the goals and move the work of the district forward. Maya, would you mind taking us through the indicator aspect of this?
Sure. So we need to select indicators within each of the main focus areas. There's a better word for it, but I don't have that in front of me. But in area 1, we were suggesting 1A, curriculum monitors and assesses progress across schools. And content areas to ensure that all instructional staff implements effective and rigorous standards-based units of instruction consisting of well-structured lessons with measurable outcomes. Certainly, we've been doing a lot of curriculum-based work, and this seems like something we would want to evaluate. We would be looking at the summer 2020 curriculum work, the updates with the weekly collaboration time, of those Wednesday collaborations that we've been talking about, the PD around the new ELA program, and then summary of the curriculum and instruction work in social studies and in science. So, and of course, any other evidence, that you guys want to propose, we could add to this. Let me just go to the other one in section 1 is 1B, instruction, monitors and supports principals and instructional staff through observations and feedback to ensure that instructional practices in all settings reflect high expectations regarding content and quality of effort and work, engage all students, and are personalized to accommodate diverse learning styles, needs, interests, and levels of readiness. Again, we feel like this is something that we've been doing a lot of work on, and it's going to be very important in this particular coming school year with all the hybrid model and the remote model. So evidence would be the summary of principal observations and admin teams meetings that are focused on instructional practice, summary of instructional practices in the new ELA program, and evolution of instruction on new remote blended environment. Kind of, talking about everything we're learning from this experience. And one of the things we talked about as we were talking about goals was not only do we want to figure out how best to get through this year, but we want to feel that we are, hopefully taking lessons from this year that can improve our instruction once we all return back to normal, which is going to happen very soon, right? So that was just kind of something we were keeping in mind as we were looking at these indicators, and also remembering that we're talking about a 2-year evaluation here. So not just this year, but next year as well. So any comments on these? You know, are you guys comfortable with these indicators, and or would you prefer to suggest another? We do have the rubric. The whole rubric is in our packets as well. And then if you're comfortable with these, then any suggestions for evidence? Dave?
I remember, how many times we've gone through this, and it's like over the years we've had no budget, so we've had to squeeze things, and we didn't really have a plan. Now we have a plan, so everything's lining up. We've got a strategic plan. We've done this before. it's just all falling together very nicely. I'm trying to find something that I'm finding a problem with and I can't.
All right, good. Yeah, no, I do think that we did have a little bit easier time kind of coming up with what we thought would be reasonable indicators to use this year, because, as you said, we do have a plan at this point. Okay, so let's look at section 2. So we were going to recommend 2A for environment and 2E for fiscal systems. Environment is develops and executes effective plans, procedures, routines, and operational systems to address a full range of safety, health, and emotional and social needs of students throughout the district, as evidenced by orderly and efficient student entry, dismissal, meals, class transitions, assemblies, and recess, school and district buildings that are clean, attractive, welcoming, and safe and supportive learning environments for all our students. This one seemed especially relevant this year, both in terms of the COVID-19 adjustments that we've had to make, and more broadly, the social emotional learning and all of the things that we're trying to do with our students that way. So that's one of the indicators that we were looking at. The other one would be fiscal systems. We never seem to be able to get away from that. It's always important. So develops a budget that supports the district's vision, mission, and goals, allocates and manages expenditures consistent with district and school goals and available resources. And effectively communicates budget rationale to staff, community members, municipal stakeholders, and the school committee. Provides regular updates on the implementation of the budget. So, I think we clearly have to keep talking about money. So, so that was our recommendation, and you can see that evidence under here. Oh, actually, I almost missed this. There was a third one that we wanted to add under section 2, and that's laws, ethics, and policies. Understands and complies with state and federal laws and mandates, school committee policies, collective bargaining agreements, and ethical guidelines, and provides the resources and support to ensure district-wide compliance. We thought this one really made sense given that the school committee is embarking on the 2-year program to update all of our policies. So we thought that we wanted a policy aspect of this evaluation over the next 2 years. So you can see the evidence that we're suggesting. I'm not going to read it out loud, but if you guys have suggestions, I'm happy to add. Or you guys can also email us, email Dr. Thompson, and when we get together on Tuesday to kind of compile the final document, we can add additional evidence if anybody has something in particular they want to use. Okay, so if there's no questions about section 2, I'll move on to 3. There's 3 and 4. So 3, we had 2 indicators. 3A is engagement. Promotes, monitors, and supports comprehensive, culturally responsive, and collaborative engagement practices that welcome and encourage every family to actively participate in the classroom and school community, and engages community stakeholders to contribute to the classroom, school, and community's effectiveness. So this gets to what we were talking about, the family engagement and the Norwood listens and all of that. And then 3B is sharing responsibility, monitors adherence to district-wide policies and practices that promote continuous collaboration with families to support student learning and development, both at home and at school, as evidenced by the collaborative identification of each student's academic, social, emotional, and behavioral needs, and connecting families to the necessary resources and services within the school and the community to meet students' learning needs. I think we all agree that sharing responsibility with families is important in any year, but most especially in this year with remote learning and hybrid learning. I think it's even more important than ever that we are really actively engaging with families to make sure that they have the resources they need and the support they need to help their students be successful. So that was what we were suggesting for 3. Any questions on that? All right, and then the 4th category, we were recommending 2 indicators there. 4B is cultural proficiency, ensures that policies and practices enable staff members and students to interact effectively in a culturally diverse environment in which students' backgrounds, identities, strengths, and challenges are respected, as evidenced by the sufficient provision of guidance, supports, and resources to all students to promote culturally responsive learning environments and school cultures that affirm individual differences of both students and staff. So this one, again, ties into the Norwood Listens initiative and just all of the work that we have said we want to do with family engagement and cultural responsiveness. And then the final one that we're recommending is 4C, communications. Demonstrates strong interpersonal, written, and verbal communication skills as evidenced by regular and informative outreach to staff, families, and community members, and the school committee in a manner that addresses the work of the district. Regularly seeks and considers feedback in decision making. This one we thought was really important this year, partly because of coronavirus, but also because of the middle school project, that we think there's going to be a lot of work for communication with many different stakeholders on this and getting feedback from the community on this. And so we thought it was important to include this communications indicator.
Thank you, Maya, for taking us through that second part. Any additional feedback from the committee at this time with the chosen indicators, or is everybody comfortable with the 9 that we have chosen?
Yeah, I think they make a lot of sense. I think you guys did a great job with this.
Thank you. Okay. So if everybody's comfortable with the document as it is, as we've said a couple times, we're meeting again, the 3 of us, Dr. Thompson, Maya, and I, on Tuesday. So if you do have any additional feedback, especially on the evidence that you want us to add in, please email Dr. Thompson by Tuesday morning so we can take that into consideration. We will meet as a group of 3 again to firm this up in terms of the SMART goals, so we can know for sure how are we assessing. That's always the fun part of goal setting. How are you going to assess? What exactly are we looking for? Benchmarks. There are 2 other things that we should start to talk about tonight, even if we don't come to a conclusion tonight. As we've been working on this for a number of years now, and as MASC kind of changes how they recommend you go about this, 2 areas block in Norwood. One is around just the timeline of the evaluation and how we want to align this either with the fiscal year or the school year or our election cycle. And then the other thing I would like us to start to talk about tonight is if we want to weight any of the 5 goals differently, or if we want each of the 5 goals to carry the same weight over the next 2 years. So any initial thoughts on either of those, both the timeline of this and then also if we do want to weight the goals differently. And the presentation is linked in the packet that goes into more detail about both of those if you wanted to reference it. But Joan?
I definitely think we should shift the evaluation cycle. I mean, we've been talking about it for a long time.
Yeah.
I just don't know how to. Oh, and
Did we lose Joan?
Locked up.
Okay. So I'm sure she'll join us. Oh, go ahead, Maya.
Yeah, I'll agree with her that I think we should shift the evaluation cycle.
sorry, I froze.
That's okay, Joan. So
Can we
okay.
move on? I don't know where we're at.
No, Maya was just saying that she agreed. So when we think about shifting the cycle, because this is a 2-year plan, so we would want to talk about when we want that mid-year check-in, which is basically at the end of year 1, and then also again the final at the end of year 2. So do we want to shift it to March so that it is done before an election cycle in the beginning of April, or what are people thinking would be the best way to approach this?
I think it makes more sense to shift town elections, but that might be harder.
I don't know if we get to vote on that tonight.
I think, and I'm just tossing this out there, I think it may make the most sense to try to think about doing this in the summer, only because that gives the person who has recently been elected a couple of months to kind of get to know the superintendent and aligns it with the end of an academic year. But I could very easily be argued out of that. That's just my initial thought.
Unless it's a COVID, election year.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So what has been happening over the last couple of years that I've been on the committee, and Maya, you can definitely speak more about your perception. I think we have often tried to do the evaluation over the summer. Well, this past year, we worked on it. I think we've been very effective this time around, getting it done in August and now working on our goals now. But the previous years, it just ended up taking a little bit longer and then drifted more and more into the school year. So, Joe, when you're saying work on it over the summer, are you proposing that like Dr. Thompson's self-evaluation, self-assessment would be to us by the end of June? Or what are you thinking?
Yeah, but then when you say that, I realize that that's actually pretty awful for Dr. Thompson. So maybe the solution is to shift it up. It's just hard when although now that doing it this year with the strategic goal, the strategic goal is already in place. It was a little bit easier because you can pin the evaluations to the strategic goals. So then maybe if we worked on it prior to the election cycle, that would mean that we would need to have it be done right by the end of March, right? We would need to be presenting it to Dr. Thompson and voting on it by the end of March, which feels like an awkward time in education to be completing an evaluation.
Yeah, Dr. Thompson, what do you think, or what are you seeing in other districts and with your colleagues?
Yeah, it's usually, Norwood has a very unusual election cycle. Most are in the fall, and most evaluations are done in May, June. Other ones I've seen are done on the calendar, so they're done at the beginning of the school year. That doesn't give us much time to have a mid-year if we do it that way. So, but that's basically the two models. I don't know if either one fits Norwood at this point in time. But the an April election is a unusual timeline. So I mean, honestly, there's never a good time. So it doesn't really matter if it's March. It's March. But I think that it definitely is something we should decide tonight before we write the goals, because we should write them with the idea that they would be, completable in the time frame. So, I think the committee has to decide whether you want 5 members being able to have experience with the goals, the indicators, and be on board and do the evaluation, or whether you want to have 1 or 2 members coming in and trying to do the evaluation with limited interaction.
What about like a February start? So, and here's why, because that would February, like, so I mean, post holidays, right? Work with the school year has started. Everybody's in the swing of things. Everybody's kind of doing, and not with, so excluding a year that we're doing an override or excluding a year that we're facing a global pandemic, because those have been my two experiences in evaluating Dave. But in what I imagine to be a normal year.
Joan, I'm still waiting for one. If you could arrange one, I'd greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, we're working on that. Trust me, I am manufacturing a vaccine in my backyard. But that's it's kind of a lull time, and it would give us time. Not that there's ever really a great time, but it would give us a time where we're kind of able to write the evaluation. But it also puts the mid-year check-in, quote unquote, 6 months out, is kind of over the summer before school starts, which is a nice course correct kind of opportunity to have a conversation before you're getting into the school year. So I'll toss that one out there, and I'm a little bit more attached to that one than the first one I was tossing out.
My initial. Oh, go ahead, Dave.
My only concern with February is it's right in the heat of the budget conference.
That's what I was just gonna say.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I forgot about budget because okay.
Yeah. So March, theoretically, the budget's done in March, unless there's a global pandemic and you don't know whether you're going to have a budget or not. But in normal time, usually a little slower where the actual budget numbers are out and you have some idea what you're walking into FinCom and town meeting with at that point. So that's January and February are hard times because of the budget process. So
yeah,
I forgot about the budget.
I'm just thinking about all the other areas that I mentioned before that we're trying to align your goals with. So the school improvement plans, we're trying to get all of those on a 2-year cycle. We currently have half of our schools on a 2-year cycle. Half of them are on 1 year, but then when they come in May, they'll be on a 2-year. But we were trying to set those up in a way that we vote on them in the spring, so they are fully ready to go, hit the ground running in September. They don't have to wait for our approval. And then I'm assuming, and correct me if I'm wrong, like the teacher goals and the administrative goals, like those are set in the fall for the school year.
Yep.
And then the strategic plan, year 2 and year 3, you're hoping to reconvene the strategic planning committee in October, which is like right around the corner.
But normally, in a normal year, we would have done that in May or June.
Right.
Right. So, in a normal year, so if the superintendent evaluation is done by the end of March, then you've got, April, May to do, the school improvement reporting and goals, and you have plenty of time to set up your administrator goals before they set up the teacher goals in the fall. So superintendent goes first. That's, ultimately, if we weren't considering an election, April would be a perfect time to do it, kind of that lull before the crazy end of year piece, so, but that's not a luxury we have with the election cycle we have.
Yeah. Not sure I have the answer here. But I do think we need to decide, as you pointed out, Dave, before we meet on Tuesday, because if we're going to be creating those goals in a smart format, the timeline is a very important piece of that.
Right.
And with, go ahead, Maya.
I think it's important that we get the new goals. It's almost less important to me exactly when we do the evaluation as it is when we set the new goals, because I feel like, the truth is that we're setting goals now in September, but most of these things we had already decided. We're not surprising Dr. Thompson with something he didn't know that we were going to be expecting. But I do think if we want to have the opportunity for the school committee to set goals, then it's important for us to be able to do it in a, a reasonable time frame. And if you're doing it in September, it's too late to influence the professional development for the year. It's too late to, like, it's too late all around. So we kind of had backed ourselves into a corner in this way, in that, like, we kind of didn't have a choice really in what goals we set. We obviously have some control over the wordsmithing and stuff like that, but it's like you can't ask for a different, like, we can't ask for a different plan for this year, because this year's already kicked off and the PD's already planned and all that kind of stuff. So I feel like if the school committee wants to be able to really influence the planning for the coming school year, then we definitely need to do the goal setting earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how early. I don't even think June is early enough, right? A lot of this PD is set long before that. And in which case, that brings us back to, maybe it does make sense to be doing it during budget season, which is terrible. But, like, that's kind of when all the planning is really kicking off, right? You're figuring out where you're going to spend your resources. That's maybe the time to starting to think about how this works.
Mm-hmm.
In which case,
sorry.
Oh no, I know. I thought I was done too, and then I just had another thought. Sorry. In which case, I'm almost thinking it makes more sense to do it on, like, a calendar year. In which case, Dr. Thompson does his, like, end of, his self-reflection, like, right after Thanksgiving. And then we write an evaluation in January, and then in February we can start thinking about new goals. I don't know.
Yeah, we might need, similar to what we did with the strategic plan, year one really ended up being like an 18-month plan just because of the timeline. So even though we're trying to work towards a 2-year goal cycle, it might end up being a little under that to get this started. But Anne-Marie, what was your thought?
No, I was just going to suggest with the, election cycle and to the point of, I feel like coming in as a new member, the evaluation is the harder part.
Mm-hmm.
Can it be even broken up where the evaluation is done before the election cycle and then the goals are set just immediately after? Because I feel like as a new member, you're able to help set the goals,
mm-hmm.
Much evaluating somebody you've just really been working with for a couple of months.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if it's something that can be even split around the election.
Yeah, I was thinking along that too. And the piece of, obviously the person who completes the evaluation in the ideal world would be then able to vote on the composite document. But I think the piece that we would definitely want to retain as much as possible is that evaluation piece, that feedback from a member, even if they did not continue after they submitted that evaluation. So
it'd be great, obviously, if all the composites could be done as well before, but things just get very crunched.
So I feel like we're all leaning towards the process needing to be like our part of writing the evaluation January, February. Is that what everybody is saying? Dave?
I think it's really the only time that we can do this to make sure that it impacts everything else. Simple fact.
Yep.
So I'm just working backwards. So if we want to be writing our individual evaluations, I'm just going to say January, February for now. We can figure out exactly what it is. We would need, obviously, time from Dr. Thompson to get his self-assessment and the evidence and all of that, which takes some time and might be a very quick turnaround this time, Dave. Sorry. Been taking into consideration just school breaks and holidays and the flow of winter. What would be reasonable for you, Dr. Thompson, if we were wanting to write our evaluation? This year we won't be writing a formal evaluation. It will be an informal mid-year check-in, which is a little bit different.
Right.
But we still need some assessment, some reflection from Dr. Thompson before that.
Well, I guess, I mean, I like the plan with the end in mind. When do you want to have, a vote by the end of March? So if you got the self-reflection the end of January, right? And then you had then you had the month of February to kind of do your assessments or whatever, and the beginning of March to collate it and put it together, and try to vote by the middle of March. Right?
I think that could work. I mean, because typically we have 2 meetings per month in January, February, and March, and February break spaces it out a little bit differently, but we do still tend to have 2 meetings in February. Right. And then just to be on the safe side, I mean, I wouldn't want to back us into a corner where we absolutely had to do this like last meeting of March before there was an election. Right. But March tends to be a longer month, and well, it is a longer month, and we usually have 2 or 3 meetings depending on how the month panned out. So if we said self-reflection end of January, mm-hmm. individual evaluations end of February, and then by the second week of March, we would be looking at the composite document and voting on it.
I think that would work.
Yeah. Okay. So this is year 2, that composite document. There will be no composite document in March of 2021. But are we in agreement that in March of 2021, we would want to do that mid-cycle check-in? Yeah.
I'm fine with that.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Pretty sure I'm following all this, but I'm going to type it into that document that I said I started, and now I'm writing notes because I can't make up my mind if I'm writing or typing. I will get that in there and make sure everybody is in agreement, and then we can work from that timeline as we work together, Maya and Dave and I. What is everybody's thought on weighting the goals? So there's 5 goals that we have discussed tonight. 2 student learning, 2 district improvement, 1 professional practice. And so far, we have just had the goals equal. Is that what we want to continue to do, or does anybody feel that any of the 5 goals should be weighted more than the others?
I think we keep them equal. I mean, it's going to be really hard to like divvy up because everything's important. And when you take away from one, you're going to, I mean, I can't say any of these goals is any less important, I just don't want something to be like, oh, there's only a 5% of, everything. It just, the only way with 5 goals, this many goals, is to make everything even. Otherwise, you're splitting hairs at this point.
Other thoughts? Dave Thompson, do you have any experience with other districts weighting goals, or do you have a recommendation?
I have not. Weighting goals is a new thing in the last 2 years. I don't think they've done that before that. So.
Okay. So everybody is comfortable just keeping it as is. All 5 goals are similar. Sweet.
Well, I mean, if it was fewer goals, you could, but with 5 goals, I don't think that's possible.
Okay. Just want to make sure we're all on the same page, because if you look at that worksheet that's in our packet from the MASC, these are the decisions we're supposed to decide in the beginning of the process. And you all know by now I'm very type A, so I'm just trying to streamline the process. But anything else on the goals tonight? I think we've been productive. But any other feedback at this time? All right, so we will work on it more on Tuesday, and then we will wrap up this discussion and hopefully vote on everything at our next meeting. So moving right along, next on the agenda is a donation. Dr. Thompson, I believe we have 1 donation tonight.
We have 1 donation. It is from Bay State Textiles. Those are our bins out in front of our schools collecting clothing and such, and a grand total of $440.50 going to different schools and locations throughout the district.
Okay. Is there a motion to accept that donation? Joe? I think Joe, and seconded by Dave. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Great. So at this time, school committee addenda. Maya, did you have anything this evening?
I just wanted to thank everybody for working so hard on our back to school effort, and to remind the community that we're still watching the metrics for the COVID-19 infections. Currently, Norwood is in the yellow. We're a little higher than we were last week, but still solidly in the yellow. And at this point, all our surrounding communities, Dedham, Canton, Westwood, Walpole, Medfield, are all in yellow as well. So hopefully we stay there or go a little below.
Thank you, Maya. Dave Catania?
I echo Maya's thoughts exactly. I had something prepared, but as not everybody's back yet, I will save my full comments till the next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Anne-Marie?
I just wanted to welcome everybody back to school. I think we're all just so excited to get the school year underway and really optimistic that everything's going to go fabulously and everyone's going to have a great experience this year, and we stay in the yellow, green, gray so we can stay in school.
Thank you, Anne-Marie. Joan?
I also want to echo thanks to everybody. I want to thank the teachers, both the returning teachers and the teachers who are new to the district. I have heard wonderful things from so many people in the community about the teachers, and I want to thank the administration, specifically the principals, for the leadership and the help that they've shown. But I think one person that we really need to thank is Joe Kidd, because he basically, he's making it, he helps create the training, or whoever trained, and the teachers who are making first and second graders and third graders and kindergartners learn remotely. It's pretty amazing. So I just wanted to thank everybody for their attitude and the effort that they have been putting into it, because the schooling has been really top notch, as Dr. Thompson has said. And I just want to make sure that what I'm hearing from the community is reflected back to everybody who took part in that. So thanks to everybody.
Thank you, Joan. So just two brief things from me. One, just a reminder to everybody on the committee to continue to look at MASC and everything that they continue to offer. I was in another workshop on Monday with them, and every time I participate in one of the workshops, I learn a lot. I feel a lot of validation, connection with other school committee colleagues, because as wonderful as all of you are, this still remains a pretty isolating position to hold. And just knowing that what we go through in Norwood, we're not alone. Like the struggles that we have been experiencing, other school committee members and other districts are experiencing as well. So just continue to look at what MASC is offering. But then the second thing, so as we all have expressed over the last couple of months, some frustration with DESE and communication, BESE, the Board of Elementary and Secondary Education, is finally meeting again after a hiatus since June, which I think I've been vocal before about my dismay when I realized that BESE took a hiatus all summer long in a time where I think their leadership was very necessary. But they are finally meeting as a board again next Tuesday, the 29th. I am working on a letter to submit to their public forum, a written testimony of some things that I tried to share directly with their chair before, but did not get a response. So I hope that it'll be read at their meeting on Tuesday. If anybody else wants to write something for public testimony to BESE, it is due tomorrow by 5, which I just discovered today when I went on the website and I thought, when are they meeting again? So their public testimony has to be submitted on Thursday at 5 before the Tuesday meeting. I can send you the link, Dr. Thompson and fellow committee members, if you want to see what their agenda is for that Tuesday meeting. I have a lot of feedback that I would like to give them on their agenda. So I will be working on that, if not late tonight, tomorrow. I will share with you what I submit, but I am determined to continue to advocate and to let them know that I think different style of leadership is very much needed from Commissioner Riley, DESE, and BESE. So at this time, I believe that concludes our meeting. We had a productive executive session before, so we do not need to go back into executive session now. So is there, Dave, are you clapping? before 10 o'clock. We've completely wrapped up. So is there a motion to adjourn this meeting? Or we could just stay in the meeting.
It hasn't been 24 hours.
Thank you, Andrew. Second by Joan. Joan did 2 hands. All in favor.
Aye.
Aye.
Great, wonderful. Have a great night, great week, and we'll see everybody again on October 7th.
Right.
Thank you,
Only,
everyone.
Thank you.